Well, as I speak, FP2 in Austin is still underway. There's about 22 minutes to go, but I don't feel too bad about starting the video now because I've got to tell you, not much is going on. Famous last words, of course, but they're droning round and round on these Pirelli 2023 test tyres with no markings on the sidewall. So we don't know what compounds they are. We don't know what fuel they're running. Pirelli are kind of running the test for all the teams. And I've got to say, it's not that interesting. It's going round and round and round. I feel, in a way, we've got a showcase race here, the United States, and it's pretty uninspiring at the moment. It was a good FP1. We'll get on to that in a minute. But I'm just thinking, I know it's all about cost, but I mean, at least, why didn't they do this sort of thing on Thursday? Give value-added exposure, if you like, on a Thursday, have the tyre test then, and have a proper FP2 on the Friday for the fans, because it's not a good look, I don't think. But anyway, the guy that I think was benefited the most from all of this was Charles Leclerc, because this morning, well, in the FP1, he didn't run at all. His place was taken by Robert Schwartzman, the young Ferrari test driver, having an outing, along with a couple of other young guys as well. It's good to see that. And so Charles sat out the session looking a bit bored on the pit wall. And then when it all began, when FP2 began this afternoon, everybody else having to bolt on these apparently rock hard 23 tyres, Charles went out on a set of softs and immediately went like a second and a half quicker than Schwartzman, as he would, and then put on some mediums and went even quicker on the mediums. Of course, the track had evolved to the afternoon. Austin does evolve quite quickly. And so he would have enjoyed that. He was going around, he did a 36.8, where everybody else is doing 43s on the 2023 tyres. So that was quite a nice moment for him. And I've included his, he then did a long run. They didn't put fuel in the car with the medium tyre on. He did a long run. He was really quick on that as well. I say long run, 5-lap run, but that's about what everybody else was doing in FP1. So he's got that homework done in a very short space of time and was unbelievably quick. As I say, partly because the track has evolved from the morning to the afternoon. So from Charles' point of view, just quite a nice day at the office, I think. Things went pretty well and he looks really, really quick. So FP1 we'll get on to in a second. Right now, just watching them go around, it is impressive because they're actually moving quite a lot. These compounds are obviously, they're doing 42s, 43s. Maybe they're all running a lot of fuel, but even so, that's still way off the pace. But they are moving around a bit, and we've seen a few moments. So maybe that's what they're bringing into Formula One for next year. Maybe also it's to do with the oscillation thing, the vertical oscillation thing, and maybe they're all running relatively high ride heights as well to simulate what the potential downforce levels are going to be next year. I think they'll be a bit quicker than this, but maybe that's what they're doing in terms of the grip levels they've got right now. So yeah, I mean, from that point of view, I guess it's quite interesting, but it's quite an esoteric thing from the fans' point of view, turning up. The only day you can get there is Friday. I'm going to Austin for the US Grand Prix. I'm going to be there on Friday, and you end up watching a 90-minute tyre test and then droning around like this. It's a bit disappointing. But anyway, there we go. Right, let's have a look at FP1, which was a good... I'm going to keep this open, actually, because, just in case something happens, obviously I need to be able to talk about it. But let's have a look, first of all, at the analysis of the fast laps. You can see on the internet what the times were. Carlos Sainz was really quick in the Ferrari. Out of the box, got to say, but I did an analysis here of some of the fastest laps. The timing wasn't working brilliantly well either. I mean, we didn't get Sainz's fastest lap in terms of his intermediate speeds and things like that. So you have to allow for that, I'm afraid. But I've put in some representative fast laps, and you can see comparisons, sector times there. Red Bull, I mean, Max didn't look... Well, he looked good, but on his quickest lap had a massive understeer moment in the middle of the hairpin and lost a lot of time. You would think probably a couple of tenths, but he was still quite quick on that lap. But you can see there, and I put that in representative, you can see his top speed. I mean, just to make it clear, safety tape for Verstappen, that's the lap that we're looking at, 37.4. And then sector 1, 26.4, sector 2, 39.1, sector 3, 31.8. Sector 2 obviously includes the long straight. And top speed is the number at the bottom, 320 kilometers an hour. So you can see how impressive Max was, even though the car I mean, he said at the end, and we didn't need to tell us, well, I guess the engineers would have seen it as well, the car just seems to go straight on in the middle of the slow corners, which is obviously clearly what it was doing. So that was Max 320. I guess the top speeds and things to look at there. Alonso in the Alpine, not bad, 315. Sergio Perez in the other Red Bull, 315. He's got a 5-place grid penalty for a power unit change. Good job they're taking it here, not in Mexico, I would say. But then look at Charles Leclerc. They've put him in there. He's on the medium tyre. All those others are on the soft doing that. Charles Leclerc on the medium, having started on the soft in FP2, just did that one quick lap, really. Well, he did a 37.6 on the soft, and then went out and did a 36.8 on the medium. Pretty serious stuff. And you can see how impressive that lap is. If you look at his sector times, along the bottom there, the bottom run is the best sector times of all the drivers with light fuel in the car. We didn't get, as I say, all the speed trap times, but I put that in just for direct comparison. So first of all, let's just look at Charles Leclerc there. 26.1 in sector 1 is as quick as anyone. Really quick. 39.1 in sector 2, 1/10 away from Max, and Lance Stroll, who was also really quick in sector 2 as well in the Aston Martin, and 31.5 as quick as anyone in sector 3. So all round a really good lap by Charles Leclerc, and 3:16 in terms of top speed. Now, obviously that isn't representative in terms of the track conditions in FP2 being better and faster than those of FP1, so shouldn't get that excited about it. But right now, it looks like Ferrari got a really good compromise going, bearing in mind that's also on the medium tyre, which is really sort of eye-wateringly quick. If you look at that, you can see, again, Max, even though he's got that drama at the hairpin, he's 39.0 sector 2, very impressive, but 31.8 sector 3. And compared with, say, Lewis Hamilton, 31.5. Lewis, I thought, looked as good as he's ever looked in a racing car today. He just looks so fluid and so on it. He was really quick. And he did a really good long run as well. So having said all of that, the Mercedes unbelievably slow in a straight line, no surprise there, 309 compared with Max 320. And I know it's early days and things might change tomorrow, but early on, even doing 309, it looked as if the Mercedes had quite a lot of bouncing going on as well. So, I mean, look at that compared with McLaren, 313 for McLaren, and Stroll 310, and a little bit quicker too on other laps. So compared with the other Mercedes runners, it's difficult stuff for Mercedes. Sergio Perez, as I say, got that penalty and didn't look, he just looked like Sergio on a Friday, to be honest. And Fernando Alonso, let's have a look, see what he was doing, 37.7. That when Stroll did 37.4, he was actually quickest at that moment, and everybody was like, whoa, what's going on here? And then Lewis did the 37.3, and Sainz went quicker. Alonso 37.7. Is a good Friday time, I think, for him in the Alpine. 3:15. They've got good top speed, giving away a little bit in the slow corners, but then you'd expect that. So a pretty good beginning of the weekend for Alpine as well. Now let's just have a look at what the new drivers did. We had Robert Schwartzman in the Ferrari, and I put them in the order they sort of finished in terms of their times. I'm sure they didn't run fuel at all. Schwartzman, 38.9. Alex Palou, who I thought looked really good in the McLaren. First time I've really seen him. I saw him drive in F3 or GP3, I think it was, when he was driving for Campos. Looked pretty good, but 39.9 in the McLaren, and he looked really, I thought of all the drivers, he was the one that was the most seamless and lovely early turn in, and just looked on top of the car. He looked really good, I thought. As did Théo Pourchaire, got to give him credit. He didn't do many laps at the start, so his session was a bit more compressed, but I thought in the Alpha he did a pretty good job to do a 40.1 quicker than Logan Sargent, who looked to be taking leaving a lot of margin, I thought, in terms of entry to the corners. Very long corners, wide entry, braking in a straight line. Maybe he was just being super cautious in front of his home crowd or what, but didn't look that comfortable, I thought, in the car. So they were the new guys. Let's have a look now at the fuel runs they did, and I've included Charles Leclerc's fuel run from FP2 in that as well for a direct comparison, and you can see how impressive it was. That lap of Carlos Sainz isn't his quickest lap on fuel. It's just an example of the sort of times he was doing. He was there or thereabout. And I think the most significant thing there, and I've mentioned this already, is how good Lewis looked on that long run. He's on the medium tyre, which was the tyre Charles was on, 42.3, which is sort of Sergio Perez and not far away from Carlos. And I think when they're running fuel, it's a really interesting comparison to see where Mercedes are really at. And you can see 27.6 in Sector 1. He's obviously got a lot of downforce. You know, that's a very good Sector 1. 41.4, yeah, you'd expect that because he's slow in a straight line. And then 33.3, Sector 3. I mean, it's pretty good. You'd have to say Mercedes have got the compromise about right. And top speed, you know, they're probably really on the edge at that 289. I'd say Sergio Perez, obviously 292, lots of margin. And if Max didn't do a fuel run in FP1, because he was trying to get the understeer out of the car, and I think they played with the ride height a bit as well. I think they started a bit higher than they felt they could run, and then he went out, and then he had quite a lot of understeer. So that was kind of FP1 was when. Sorry, that's George Russell saying hello. Yeah, radio message from George. So yeah, 292. You'd probably think that Max would be doing a lot more than that, you know, in terms of exit and all the rest of it. So probably, I mean, a massive advantage. So if there's going to be any marked difference between Red Bull and Ferrari, again, it's going to be on the straight, and that shows up pretty solidly with the fuel runs, with fuel in the car. So Leclerc 288, Perez this morning 292, and he wasn't brilliantly quick in the Red Bull anyway, and we haven't seen Max, as I say, with the fuel load. So yeah, very, very good for Red Bull in terms of the race. But Mercedes not that far away. And here I've just put up, here are the long runs. The good thing about this Pirelli thing, and I'm just checking now, nothing more's happened. No, Charles Leclerc still top of the list. The good thing about the Pirelli test this afternoon, which is kind of, you know, it is what it is, it doesn't mean anything else other than it's great data for Pirelli, is that a lot of teams actually did quite a lot of long runs this morning, which is very unusual in an FP1. We saw teams that would normally spend most of FP1 faffing around trying to get a setup, actually doing a one-run setup and then putting fuel in the car and doing a run. So we had a lot of comparisons from fuel runs, and there you see them. And they're all, you know, Carlos Sainz did what, 5 laps? To get a 5-lap run out of FP1, 1 hour session, as well as a setup, it's pretty good work by all the teams to have done that. And let's just have a look. So Carlos Sainz did a 41.0. The rest were in the 42s and then a 43 at the end. And the only other drivers in the 41s were Sergio Perez in the Red Bull and, of course, the brilliant Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari this afternoon on the medium tyre, who only did 2 laps in the 42s and all the others in the 41s. So at the moment, based on that, world stops revolving tomorrow. Charles Leclerc quickest on fuel by a mile. Having said that, there's no Max Verstappen in there because he didn't do a run this morning, as I just explained. So Carlos Sainz, consistent, but the tyres look to be going off towards the end. You've got to say the soft tyre. Lewis ran the medium, but I thought very good. 42.3, 42.8, 42.6, 43.2. Not bad at all. And he looked to be, I mean, he was on the edge for sure, but he was beautifully on the edge. Lovely to watch. Sergio Perez, yeah, you know, good car. Not a great setup, not a great run, but obviously showing signs of how quick that car is. Lando Norris in the McLaren on the medium. How did he compare with Lewis Hamilton? Well, just a little bit slower, although on the medium at the end of that run, he's doing a 42.7, which is quite impressive. So he's getting into it, and he's actually getting quicker as the run progresses. Lance Stroll had a very good morning. He ran the hard tyre, so we've got to bear that in mind. In the Aston Martin, he looked really good alongside Sebastian Vettel, who was quite quick early on, but had a massive moment, probably scared himself a bit in the middle of the quick S's, or coming out of the quick S's, and it was Lance that went out and did a very good job on the light fuel, and then did a good long fuel run as well, 43.0 up to 44.7, but you know, nicely consistent, did a good day's work, and a little bit quicker than Alonso and Ocon in the Alpines looking good there. And if you compare Stroll with George Russell, he looks pretty good as well. Obviously, it may not stay, but bear in mind Stroll's on the hard tyre, George on the soft tyre. Guan Yu Zhou has also got a penalty, power unit deal as well, five place grid penalty in the Alpha, 43.4, 43.5. Pretty good, actually. I thought Zhou looked in the Alpha. And then look at Charles Leclerc. I mean, it's just brilliant reading to see Charles Leclerc so quick. And just, what a thing. It's such a nice feeling when you just jump in the car and he hasn't done any driving at all. And he's just instantly quick like that. That was the best moment of the day, I thought. So I'm sure it'll be more dramatic tomorrow. There's a few pointers to what might be happening over the weekend, but let's see what actually does happen on Saturday in Austin. I'll be back tomorrow with a video then. Looking forward to that. See you then.